Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Welcome to Asylum Breakout, a Sabat intrigue and darkness game. This prelude is set in the hospital walls of a certain hospital on a remote island in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Um, some patients have been called to their personal psychiatrist, Dr. Wicker's office, for a consultation, a checkup, see how they're doing, how they're faring in this interesting, troubling environment. So, you both have your rooms. The rooms are plain, just very simply a bed, a desk, a meshed window, and a bathroom. Personal effects are not allowed. No posters, no pictures, nothing. It's a very clinical environment. The building is somewhat outdated. You could easily mistake the building for being built. The exterior of the building looks almost like it's Elizabethan, but inside it has all the 1960s sterile trappings of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, with that sort of the hospital environment, that unpleasant bleach smell, the white walls and the slightly off-green linoleum floor that you can hear people creaking about at all hours of the night. So you know where Dr. Wicker's office is. You've been there before. She's very likely um, been. She's not done all of your consultations, but she's the head psychiatrist of your particular cases, and she's asked to see you. So you'll need to make your way to her office on the third floor. How are you getting there, and what are you thinking as you make your way there?
You go first, Peter.
All right. Marie, or as she would call and insist people call her, Dr. Villebrand, is like any other day, doing her practices, doing her physical fitness. She's keeping in shape as much as possible. She's, to her constant frustration, she's been here for a while now. She's getting frustrated. She's been getting frustrated. She's been also trying her best to keep that frustration hidden. But at some point she will get out, return to her practice. She knows this. As long as these incompetent buffoons calling themselves doctors will concentrate on their jobs and really find out that she is indeed not supposed to be here. She is a medical professional just like them. She is one of the best, if not the best, in her field. And yet she is here because of bogus reasons. She does not belong here. And this day is just one more. She gets herself, she doesn't have too many cosmetics with her, but she makes herself as presentable as possible, as always, quite presentable. She doesn't. Is she followed by an orderly? I'm guessing she is.
No, you're allowed full because you've been mostly behaving. You're allowed free reign to walk around the hospital, and you're allowed some at certain times of the week. You're allowed outside into like the into the garden area where you can work out or walk around. There's a quite a beautiful garden in the back.
Hmm.
But the garden's surrounded by very high walls is maybe you've looked, maybe you've thought, maybe I could climb it. There's always that ever present in this building, no matter where you are, even if you think you're alone, you always get the sense of being watched. Even in your room at night, there's that feeling that there are eyes upon you. And that feeling doesn't dissipate as you walk down the corridor. There are, you can tell it's the middle of the day, and it's not the middle of the day. Just realised, it's sort of early evening. Dinner is coming past, but people are still milling about.
Yeah. Dr. Willenbrand does not really catch eye contact with any of the other inmates. She dismisses them. She keeps to herself as she normally does. She doesn't.
There's a woman that you pass, a very short, fat, greasy-looking woman with very beady blue eyes that sniggers at you as you pass. And says, "It's the doctor, it's the doctor." And just laughs at you.
It's the fat, useless piece of trash that can cobble together very few coherent sentences and will never get out.
She cackles manically.
That's right. That's right. Enjoy it. And she just looks at her, just takes a moment to just, it shifts, and she's very interested in this moment. And she just, they waste their time on me and on you. This is an insane system.
The woman leers forward. She gives you a toothy grin and she says, "You're never getting out either. Never." And she starts laughing again until an orderly comes and...
I'll send you a postcard. And
an orderly comes and puts his hand on her shoulder and says, "Mrs. Sunheim, please go back to your room. You're not supposed to be in the corridor after 8 p.m. And she's ushered away.
Willenbrand just proceeds down the hallway.
Jason.
Damien Lundy knew that at some point in his life he would probably end up in a place like this, but not under the circumstances that he found himself. That being said, considering everything that he's heard about insane asylums, this place looks a little bit, well, he would hazard to say somewhat cartoonish compared to the depictions that he's seen in, like, maybe books or movies or whatever you want. And he had no illusions that this was an accurate representation of reality, but finding himself in a place like this, considering everything that he's done, in some small part it should be poetic, cathartic, if that's even a word. But in other senses, it almost feels like a great injustice to someone of what he perceives to be his standard. You know, the fact that they don't even allow any personal effects, or very little personal effects, in their cell blocks, as it were. That is probably more than anything else the thing that annoys him the most about this place. But considering what would likely befall him if he were on the outside, perhaps there's perhaps that's something to take somewhat solace in. He doesn't like being a rat in a cage, or a bird trapped in a cage, maybe.
That's very much the feeling you get in the men's ward. Unlike the women's ward, which is I suppose a little bit more comfortable. You've seen it. You've seen the fluffy cushions and the paintings of sunflowers and rainbows on the walls in the common rooms as you've passed through when you've been taken to the doctor's offices. The men's ward is very much like a prison. And the men you've met are very much like prisoners. Most of them don't talk much. Sometimes there's fights, disagreements over silly things, the TV remote, people lending cigarettes, as you can only smoke outside. And smoking privileges are scarce and hard to come by. The men's ward is certainly calmer than the female ward, it seems. There doesn't seem to be a lot of discussion or debate that goes on. But there's an overwhelming sense of tension, as if violence could break out any moment.
Which Damien no doubt would have kept somewhat of an eye on. I mean, he probably, when fights did break out, he'd probably just be on the other side of the room, just watching the whole thing. If it involved some people that looked like they could put up a decent fight, probably would watch, but for the most part, he would have just been quite casually disinterested in a lot of things, just going about his usual day, or going about whatever it is that he was assigned to do during the day. But in the back of his mind, he was always thinking, plotting, maybe mentally mapping out like places where, mentally mapping out the interior of the building, everything that you could see on the outside. He's presuming that there's at least some routine to the place.
There's a very strict routine. Everything's done on routine. You know from your investigations the place is very heavily guarded. The security is high. It's a maximum security mental institution. There are a series of gates you have to pass through to get to the women's ward. The building's almost cut completely in half. You may have seen a glimpse of some of the women on the other side of the fences. Between the gaps. But if you got too close to the fence, you're ushered away. The walls on the outside are very high. Too high for anyone to safely climb. The gardens are probably the nicest place. Which is why everybody begs and barters and manipulates to get their time in the garden. And you know that restriction from being able to go outside is probably one of the harshest punishments you can have in this place, because the walls, the confined space, drives people even more insane than they were to begin with. Animals in a cage, rats in a cage,
birds in a cage.
As you pass through the common room, you see a few men sat watching television. They don't look at you. They don't look up at you. They don't acknowledge your presence.
And he's perfectly fine with that. There was each time he goes into these rooms, he's always taking notes of small objects that might be around the place, dotted around the place, left unattended, that type of thing.
Right now, earlier on there seems to have been some crafts that went on, but all these things have been packed away. You can see the remnants of people's scribbles, poetry, a few pictures, pieces of paper left discarded on the table. There's some empty plates and some plates half full with sandwiches. The food looks very bland. You know from experience it tastes bland. it's decent enough food. I mean, you get meat and fish and bread, but it's never exciting. You're well fed, but if you want anything special, well, that requires arrangements. You're met by an orderly, a slender, sort of handsome-ish man, slick back blonde hair, in his white pressed medical uniform, who says, yes, Mr. Lundy, follow me. And he starts unlocking the gates.
Quick question: are these gates? How are these gates locked?
They seem to be locked with electronic keycards.
Ah, okay.
You've noticed that everybody has an individual keycard. All the orderlies have one, the doctors, the nurses, and I'd say you've noticed that some keycards work in some places and some don't. The keycards are different color coded. The orderlies have blue keycards. And sometimes you see a nurse and she has a green one.
Okay.
The orderly leads you up the stairs. You've been this way before for your doctor's appointments, if you have a female doctor, which in your case you do. And he doesn't say anything to you. He just walks up the stairs, hands you over to a female orderly, a big woman. She makes the male orderly look mouse-like in comparison. And she opens the gate, lets you through, closes the gate behind you, and again, wordlessly, starts leading you up to floor 3, where your appointment with Dr. Wicker is.
And he'll proceed up there. He's got nothing to gain by causing any trouble for now.
The women are mostly in the corridor, in their rooms at this point. You can tell that, much like in the men's ward, food has been... dinner has come and gone, and the majority of the female patients are in their rooms. You might see it. You might spot a few backs of heads watching the television as you pass through. But up the stairs you go, and to a waiting room, where you will see this woman, Peter's character, also waiting.
Quick description. She is late 20s, early 30s, would be your guess. She is quite good looking. Actually very attractive. And she seems more well kept than, well, many of the other patients that you have seen. Like, she seems somewhat washed, somewhat bathed. Her hair is done. She has a bit of makeup on. She seems to be keeping. She seems to be fairly well together, considering the place. And yeah, she does not look at you.
As far as Damien looks, well, he's got the archetypal boy next door type appearance to him. You know, pretty decent looking, not model quality, but pretty decent. Friendly looking face when he talks. He has kind of a very soothing, one might even say enchanting voice to him.
Quick interjection. You won't be shaven because razor blades aren't allowed.
Of course, yes, and naturally he'll have somewhat of a 5 o'clock shadow about him. Yeah. Obviously, you know, I'm presuming that he's not allowed to have personal clothing on, so yeah, he'll probably have whatever clothing.
You're allowed your personal clothes.
All right.
And things like soap, things like that. Personal, any sort of like Marie as well. You're allowed soap and not perfume bottles, but deodorant. If you want to have a shave, sometimes you're allowed, sometimes you're not, depending on your background. And there will be supervision for when you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
That goes for men and women. So if you don't like being watched shaving your legs in the bath, you're out of luck.
Well, on a out of character note, she will insist on having that be a thing as much as possible.
And you'll be allowed it. But you'll have at least 2 nurses watching you in the bath or in the shower.
Sure. Well, just if personal clothing is allowed, she will probably look more like this, as much as she can.
Yes, and Damien probably looks a little bit. Well, he'd like to.
Personal clothing's allowed as long as it's not sexual or, it has to be modest.
Oh, this is modest. I just don't have a picture of her in a. I'm assuming she wouldn't be wearing doctor's clothing, so.
No.
So, but she will actually be wearing a shirt, like almost looking like a business.
In fact, I think Peter Marie probably is allowed a little bit more than other people seem to get in terms of clothing.
Okay. But she will be
you've
wearing.
You've been if you brought anything with you that's personal, you've been allowed to look at it, spend some time with it, but not keep it.
But yeah, she's wearing a shirt, buttoned shirt, and looks somewhat businesslike.
So this waiting room, it's nice. It's what you would expect from It's more sort of. It's not sterile like downstairs. There's comfortable leather seats, a wooden coffee table, paintings on the wall, various different paintings, mostly sort of Renaissance art. There's definitely more of a Tudor or Elizabethan feel up here than there is downstairs. Carpets are nice, soft carpets. And some classical music is playing, gentle classical music. The heavy wooden oak door is closed at the moment. But you see Dr. Wicker's name embossed on the outside. Gold plating. Dr. Eleanor Wicker, MD.
Sorry, my cat is just attempting to interject itself into the scene.
The big orderly, the woman, whose name you don't know, and she doesn't seem to be in any way interested in talking with either of you, stands near the entrance doorway, sort of in a guarding position. You can just see this short, shaved back of her head and her muscular arm sticking out, but she doesn't enter the room. So what are you doing? Are you going to sit down, or are you going to discuss anything?
Yeah, Damien's just going to sit down and listen to the quaint classical music, look at some of the pictures. You say they're Renaissance, right?
Yeah, they're sort of the sort of thing you've probably seen in an art gallery. They're actually very nice paintings if you've got any sort of dots in culture or what's the right
Academics.
word? Academics. Yeah, if you have academics dots,
He's got one of them.
you can tell they're nice paintings.
Yes.
They're not cheap paintings.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I have 3 in academics.
They're very nice paintings. They're probably worth quite a lot of money.
Okay.
A couple of famous ones. Most likely reprints, you think, famous ones. But there are 1 or 2 that are more rare, and they look genuine to your eye. After a few minutes, the door is opened. A small, short, pretty young woman with red hair, in sort of formal 1950s style secretary clothes. She opens the door and she says, Mr. Lundy. Doctor.
And Damien will look up towards her with the same smile which his character representation has.
She's got,
Yes.
I mean, if anyone has a friendly face than you, it's definitely this girl. She doesn't look more than about 19, in fact. But she smiles broadly at you and she says, Mr. Lundy, and she turns to you, Peter, and says, Doctor, please both come in. Dr. Wicker will see you now.
Thank you. There's a quite wide smile, a polite smile as she enters, nods to the secretary.
You know the secretary's name is Rosie. And she says, oh, can I get you, either of you, tea, coffee, water, cigarettes, anything? Anything?
A cup of coffee would be lovely, thank you.
Coffee would be lovely, thank you very much.
She leaves. The room is a large, beautifully decorated office sort of thing that you'd see in Oxford or Stanford. Peter, you've probably seen the sort of thing where you went to university.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much like an office don's, a university don's office. You know, big oak desk, huge, comfortable leather chairs. The whole room surrounded by books. There's little. There's a photo frame on the desk, but it's turned away from you. After a few minutes, the Rosie comes in with a tray of coffee and a few little biscuits, biscotti. She puts it down on the table in front of you, and she says, "The doctor will just be just a minute. Please press the buzzer if you need anything." She indicates to a small red button, which is next to the on your side of the desk where you sit. And then she will make her way out. The coffee smells delicious. It's obviously not cheap coffee like you get downstairs.
Yeah, Damien will take the time to take a drink of the coffee and, savour the taste just a little bit. And
it's very good coffee. It's brewed,
Yeah. And probably after he's taken a sip of that stuff and maybe just put it down temporarily. If I'm understanding correctly, both he and the doctor are being left in this room alone, or at least
Yes. You're alone for the moment.
Yeah,
There's
Damien will just.
There's a staircase. It's like a two-leveled room. There's a gold staircase, brass, that leads up to an upper level with more books. And you've seen Dr. Wicker come down from there before?
Yeah, and Damien will probably look over towards the doctor. Just give them a small, slight smile. I'm sorry, I don't think we've met before.
She's looking straight ahead. She's not looking at you. She takes a sip, and there's a pause after she's clearly swallowed the coffee. And she just says, "No, we haven't."
Well, that's an astute observation. Though I'm curious, why are you here?
Again, long pause. Nothing is said. She's just waiting.
Waiting.
Yeah, and then at some point she would just look at you. Look you up and down and just say, "Normally consultations in the psych ward is..." I'm assuming that you are one of her patients as well. And they seem to keep normally.
Just as you start having this conversation, you hear the door abruptly upstairs open, and the sound of hard floor being met by high heels, and then the staircase. And you see Dr. Eleanor Wicker come down in a white business suit, skirt suit. She's carrying 2 folders under her arms, and her hair is up, and she just shoots you both a look as she makes her way quite gracefully downstairs. Damien and Marie. She smiles.
Hello, Doctor. Good to see you again.
Doctor?
And you, Marie. She
Damien,
looks. She does quite noticeably look Marie up and down slightly.
Yeah,
And
and
then-
Damien, you will notice that it's almost as her demeanor changes as soon as the doctor comes into view. There is a very distinct change in her demeanor.
And Mr. Lundy. I hope the men's ward are treating you well.
Well, I've not had any problems so far. I think they're all just content to ignore me.
Good. She puts the files down on the desk and opens a drawer and takes out what looks like a decanter. A glass decanter. Coffee's all well and good, but I think you both need something to take the edge off. A drink. A proper drink. She pours 3 glasses of...
Alright, my
Smells
cat
like-
is interrupting again.
It
Sorry, carry on.
smells like brandy. Quite sweet smelling.
Yeah, Damien will probably just look towards the doorway that leads out to the way that they came, just checking and then looking back to the doctor. To Dr. Wicker, sorry.
Nervous, Mr. Lundy?
No, I just don't want to get you in trouble.
She laughs, showing her brilliant, straight white teeth. She's a very attractive woman, to say at least appearance 4. Oh, don't you worry about me, Mr. Lundy. I have a great deal of power in this hospital, and I do as I please.
But you would say, if I may be so bold, Doctor, that there is a strict separation normally in a psych ward between male and female patients, and imbibing of spirits is not something I've ever heard of being condoned, but of course I will not question your methods. It's your
Marie,
prerogative, of course.
sweet Marie, you have been through so much. I've been looking at your file, and I think there's a way that we can make sure that you will not be here for very much longer.
I am very, very glad to hear that. And her smile grows very, very wide indeed.
I'll be moving you into private accommodation on this floor.
Thank you. I knew that reason would win out. We can hopefully soon have all of this unfortunate business put behind us.
And you, Mr. Lundy.
I myself, looking forward to get back to my real work.
Yes. And you, Mr. Lundy.
Damien he's probably been watching the two of them speak at this point, and he's probably putting bits and pieces together in his head. But he does turn towards Dr. Wicker, as his name is mentioned. Just with a smile.
You're
Yes.
being moved as well.
Oh, that's nice of you.
It's come to my attention that a few gentlemen on your floor have designs upon you, and I wouldn't like to have that in my hospital. Such disgusting behaviour.
Oh, I wonder why they would do that. I can't have done anything to upset them.
Oh no.
And you can tell the sarcasm is somewhat... It's not dripping sarcasm, but you can tell that even with that flat tone that he uses, that there is this underlining sarcasm to it. He knows exactly what he's done.
Yes, why would anyone be erratic in a psych ward in a maximum security institution?
Well, you've not read my file. And he does probably look towards that exact file which Dr. Wicker came in with.
It's closed.
Mm-hmm.
She puts the glasses in front of you both. The brandy smells very sweet indeed. Like plums. And she pours her own glass and holds it. So, I feel like you can both relax a little bit more.
Marie will raise the glass in a chair and just say,
Yeah, and Damien would take his own glass.
To the climb towards normality.
there isn't a scuff from Marie, but she just accepts it and drinks.
Dr. Wicker drinks.
And Damien will probably just hold up the glass somewhat, not quite as high as the other two women in the room would have, excuse me. But he holds it up a little bit and just says, to be in a room with two wonderful women. A locked door before drinking it.
It's not a big glass. Brandy glasses aren't huge. You can probably take it in a mouthful. If not 2 mouthfuls if you want to sip it.
Mm-hmm.
And it tastes exceptionally delicious. It doesn't burn you on the way down. It's like drinking a smooth, fruity drink with a slight smoky kick to it. It leaves a pleasant feeling in your throat and a slight buzz. You now have 1 point of blood each in your system.
Ooh.
This is very, very delicious.
So,
considering Damien's background, or at least the concept, Is there any chance that you'd recognise that? I mean, obviously you won't know that it's, vampire stuff, but...
No. There's no hint of metallicness or anything like that in the drink.
Fair enough. That's fine.
The blood has a particular metallic irony taste.
Yeah, very coppery taste.
It's very distinctive. You don't sense anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
It overpowers you almost with its taste. It gets into your nose, and it's not an unpleasant taste, but it's very strong.
Mm-hmm.
Stronger than any brandy you might have tasted before.
Yeah.
So, Doctor,
Yes.
what is your timetable for my release? I know that court mandated certain things, but I'm sure we both agree that you can testify to my recovery and that my incarceration here is no longer required.
She opens your file and she looks through some papers. I have a lawyer coming on Saturday. I do believe that we can arrange for you to be released on Sunday, I think.
Very well. Very good.
Under probation at first. You will have to be monitored.
Of course.
A precaution. But for the last few days of your stay here, I wish to make you as comfortable as possible. You'll have telephone privileges.
Thank you very much.
I'll show you to your rooms in a moment. Mr. Lundy,
Mm-hmm.
I think that with your progress, it's not been quite as pleasing so far, but you're managing to stay in control, which is excellent, and I'm trusting you to go to a higher level. Do not disappoint me.
Oh, of course I won't.
Any attempts to escape this facility will be dealt with in the highest possible regard.
Oh, I have no doubt. Doctor?
When she says this, her face goes very straight, almost hard. There's a real burning sense for a moment, like she's burning her eyes right into you. And then she returns to her sort of pleasant smile. Well then. Is there any concerns either of you wish to raise with me? Any patients or staff members or concerns about your care while we're just still here finishing our coffees? She leans back in the chair and does that thing where women sort of don't quite take their high heel off, but it sort of dangles on their foot. And she likes a cigarette.
Marie, for her part, just seems to enjoy the taste of brandy. Still, he sits back and she just smiles. She doesn't seem to have anything to add. Again, she's almost not paying any attention to Damien. Her attention is fully on the doctor. She's smiling and being very sociable towards
As you're
him.
feeling at the moment, you really are. You really don't want Dr. Wicker to pay attention to Mr. Lundy. You'd much rather have some time with her yourself. How long will this meeting last until you can be shown to your rooms?
Damien, for his part, well...
You're feeling the same, Damien. You're just thinking, if only Dr. Wicker will... There's a sort of tug to wanting sole attention from her that you're not quite sure where it comes from.
Yeah, compared to some of the other doctors that Damien might have had prior to his incarceration here, Dr. Wicker's probably the only one that's ever actually given him, drink, let alone quality brandy, especially one that seemed to have this good of a taste to it.
The last time you were here, she gave you a drink. It wasn't an alcoholic one, but both of you had a larger cup of coffee, which was nice. Sicilian, you remember her saying. But she only seems to ever do consultations in the early evening when the hospital's quiet.
She's not against the idea.
Oh, she stubs her cigarette out after smoking it, and she says, Mr. Lundy, wait here. Wait with Rosie, and I'll come back and get you. I'll take Marie to her ward first, as it's closer.
Okay. That's perfectly fine.
Rosie? She doesn't seem to even need to raise her voice. Rosie appears. She says, keep Mr. Lundy company for a few moments while I take Marie to her new room. Rosie says, oh, of course, Doctor, please, Mr. Lundy, tell me everything about your day. And she comes in and sits with you. And she'll just, it doesn't matter how, it doesn't seem to matter how rude or abrupt you are to Rosie. He still greets you with kind of almost girlish enthusiasm about everything.
Yeah, Damien's just thoroughly amused at that.
She just seems to be very, very interested in everything you say. Dr. Wicker will stand up and lead Marie out. Reaching inside, she takes the files with her. As she leaves the office room, she takes a black card out of her, sort of like the inside pocket of her jacket, and unlocks a door, which leads into another corridor. And she holds it for you.
She thanks her, smiles, and follows her. And
These corridors are much nicer. Again, it's kind of Elizabethan feel. There's art on the walls. There's fruit in bowls. There's a peaceful calm.
it is good to meet another professional who, truly puts her mind to her job.
Oh yes, I've read all about your case and your work history. I'm very impressed by your profile so far.
This little unfortunate misunderstanding is, partly due to, incompetence. I failed of certain tests, as I'm sure you've realized by my file, but it's also, there are so many people I can help, so much I can still do. I did not graduate at the age I did, and press myself as much as I did, if not to be at my utmost, and contribute as much as possible.
Yes. Well, I graduated young myself. I understand the trappings of a woman in a man's world. Even as 21st century as we pretend to be, there are still ceilings and bindings and corruption everywhere. Well, here we are. She shows you into your room, which has your name on the outside. With the doctor in front of it. And MD.
She smiles at that.
The room is very nice. It's what you would expect from a modern boutique hotel room. Again, there's obviously nothing in here that you could potentially hurt yourself with. And the windows are meshed, reinforced. But your clothes and your personal effects, any pictures or letters you might have brought with you, and all your clothes and your beauty products are neatly laid out on the bed. There's an ensuite bathroom. And you can just about see through the window into the garden. It overlooks the garden. Unlike your previous room, which seemed to be almost basement level.
From what can be told by expression and by body language, Marie is very, very happy with this and thanks the doctor a lot.
She says, in the morning, your food will be brought to you. You can choose to eat here in your rooms or in the dining hall down the corridor. That is your choice. If you have any requests, then take them to the orderlies, and I'm sure that you can be allowed books and writing equipment.
I very much appreciate that.
There's gym equipment available that you can have in the morning during your exercise routine. Or I've secured it so that you can spend more time in the garden. I'm very pleased with your progress, Marie.
Thank you very much. I truly appreciate being recognized.
I'm afraid I have to go. I have things to attend to, but I'll be in touch. And Sunday, we can celebrate your release. Your true release. She smiles.
Thank you very much.
Have a good evening.
The same to you.
Don't really want her to go. There's that tug.
Yeah, and
you've had a few dreams about it.
but
there's this sort of
Marie will, as she's about to leave, Marie will. But one more thing, Doctor. I understood that the other patient was not in the same. Was there a reason for us to meet? Was it perhaps positive reinforcement, or I'm curious. Psychiatry is not my field of expertise, as you know.
She reaches her hand out and lightly presses the back of her fingers against Marie's cheek. And she says, "It was just a test, darling. You passed. Get some sleep."
Very well.
And then she will come out. The door closes and you hear that familiar sort of lock. Almost like an electronic lock.
Mm.
And then the sounds of high heels on the carpet fade away. But it's so much quieter up here. No screams. And you're left to enjoy your new surroundings.
And she will, as much as she can. She will sit down and begin to read, most likely.
Rosie's just there talking about her day. If you say anything about your day, blah blah blah, she just talks about her day. She says, "Oh, when I went into the garden and I read a book about horses and blah blah blah." You know, just real sort of teenage chattering.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Damien will be like, he'll be polite and just let them talk, still with the somewhat smile on his face, and he'll be like, "Oh yes, oh that's nice, and then probably at some inopportune moment, he'll just say, "Well, as for me, Dr. Wicker mentioned that there were some men in my ward that had designs upon me, probably to rape me in the shower, probably to stab me in the corridor with a homemade shank. Who knows, really? But either way, besides that, everything's been fine."
You catch a moment of alarm, as if Like she does a sort of deer in headlights look at you for a second. Oh, well, that's not very nice.
No, it isn't.
The doctor will stop.
The
Dr. Wicker, she's amazing, and she doesn't let anything bad happen to anybody. I promise.
Well, considering the kind of people that we have here in this place, perhaps I shouldn't be too surprised that someone would have those kind of designs. I mean, I am kind of par for the course when it comes to this place. I think you've not been told about my file, have you? And he is kind of like somewhat looking over towards that file.
Dr. Wicker took it with her.
Oh, all right, never mind. Yeah.
She says, "No, I don't look at the files. I just do the appointments, make the tea, take phone calls, messages."
That's nice.
She stands up because she hears Dr. Wicker coming. Oh, I really must be getting back to work. Bye.
Bye-bye.
She scurries away just as the door opens. She almost scurries underneath because she's a very tiny woman, probably only no taller than about 4'11", really. She scurries under Dr. Wicker's arm. And she comes in. She says, "Mr. Lundy, please follow me."
Very well. Damien gets up out of his seat and starts to follow Dr. Wicker.
She, again, she leads you through this door using her black security card. And then up the stairs, you turn. There's a sort of cross section. So you've got the staircase, like a square box, and then a security door either side. She takes you to the right door. And you're in a sort of upper area with not too different from where you've just been. Carpets, pictures, fruit and fruit bowls. It doesn't seem... You pass a couple of doors that are closed. A couple of different names upon them. Are you paying attention to the names?
Yeah, he'll probably be fleetingly looking at them.
One of them says Professor Branwyn. Another one says Arthur Wick. And you think, huh? That looks the same as Dr. Wicker's name. So Arthur Wicker... Wick? Is it Wicker or Wicker? You go past too quickly to really stop. She doesn't dawdle. And you're led to this room. The door's open, and again, your personal effects have been set out on the bed. Any letters or photographs you had. Your clothing.
Yeah, it's probably going to be mostly clothing.
There's a telephone in the room. An old-fashioned telephone. One of those ones where you turn the dial to ring.
Wow. Old school.
Yeah.
No,
There's one in
awesome.
Marie's room as well. It's very old-fashioned.
Yeah, Damien will probably just look at all the stuff. He'll probably like fiddle about with the old-fashioned phone. It's like got the like wire thing that's connected to it. I imagine.
You hear when you pick it up, you hear like the like the that it's connected.
I'm sorry, he'll put it back on there. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to set off the. Oh God, what do you call it? You know, where the phone makes the alarm.
You don't feel. Neither of you feel as watched in these rooms. There's more of a relaxed feel to this level of the building. You feel comfortable. The only thing that really gives you pause is sometimes the corridor. Sometimes the corridor feels a little bit strange, but in the room you feel safe enough. It's comfy. It's like being on holiday in a very nice, old-fashioned boutique hotel. Egyptian cotton, plush mattresses. Both the rooms have a very large, deep bath. Dr. Wicker just sort of looks you over, watches you fiddle with the amendments in the room. She says, tomorrow you'll be allowed more garden privileges and more space to be unbothered by the other patients.
That's always good. I'm curious, though. What have I done to deserve these special privileges? I mean, I hardly think that I've done that much.
Perhaps you should let me worry about your care needs and not look too much into things, Mr. Lundy.
Well, you are the professional here, after all. I do find it curious that you'd leave me in a room with a fellow medical professional unattended twice.
She walks. She crosses the room when you say that. In a sort of almost deliberately. Her movements are quite like an animal stalking its prey. She fixes you with quite a hypnotic look that tugs on something inside you. You're not quite sure where it came from because your nature is suspicious and inquisitive and skeptical. But this woman, in those moments, this woman draws your attention for a few seconds. You feel a tug, some kind of tug.
No. He's naturally curious about this. I don't think
maybe it's sexual attraction.
Yes, maybe. I mean, well, she is a very powerful woman. Well, a woman in a position of power.
It's been a while since you've seen a woman, but seems logical.
Well,
everyone has desires. Assuming that your character is heterosexual or bisexual.
Bisexual, but yes.
Yeah. Well, why not? She walks up to you and she places her hand on the center of your chest. Says, it was a test. And she trails it down a little bit, just stopping very slightly above Damien's belly button. You passed. Congratulations.
A test?
Test.
A test to be polite, a test to not, well, do something that would probably keep me locked up in a rubber room here. A test to not... I don't know what you could be testing me for.
She smiles. How good is your control, Mr. Lundy?
It's been thoroughly tested since I've been here. The urges perhaps are... it's difficult to find what exactly I was looking for when I was outside. But it's still testing nonetheless. It's like being a rat in a cage with no food. Or you know that there is food there, but you can't see it, if that makes any sense. I don't know if there's any examples that I could probably give, but...
What you're saying to me is that you're hungry.
Yes, Doctor.
She smiles. Soon, Mr. Lundy, soon. And she lets her fingers linger on you a little more so that you can feel the impact of her fingertips on your skin.
Yes.
And then she'll take a few steps back and say, try and get some sleep.
And Damien will, because he's reluctant to see them go, he'll be trying to, he'll like maybe like take a half step towards Dr. Wicker as she leaves, but he'll have to stop himself because, but he'll just kind of like softly nod his head and, "I'll try, Doctor." He'll rush his hand down his 6 o'clock shadow.
Well, everyone loves a trier. She says as she closes the door quietly, and you hear that sound of electronic shutting, locking.
Yeah, Damien's probably going to be a little bit frustrated.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't exactly subtle what she was doing. So
It's sort of she wants the D, but she knows that she has power over Damien. So it's
yeah, she definitely.
Hey, D, Damien.
From your point of view, she definitely wants the D, definitely. The D, and from Marie's point of view, it seems like she definitely wants the V. Who knows?
Well, that's how it always starts. That's how it's always started.
It's actually lovely and quiet in this part of the hospital, and you make yourself comfortable in whatever way you choose to. And when you get to bed, you'll see the lights out will happen around 10:30 p.m. Strangely, for a minute there, as the lights start to dim and the hospital goes quiet, you're sure the shadows under the door move. And that'll be the moment we end the scene. Thank you very much, players, for playing, and watchers for watching. Pete, did you press the button?
Yes. Did you press the button, Pete?
I thought I did, but